Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for a planning meeting. We have one application which is for 12 Church Lane. So we start the meeting with apologies for absence and declarations of interest. Presumably the same absence is reported, plus Simon has left us. So,
but he's not.
He's not.
No, but
it's anyways.
Okay, but we'll record the number of that we've got here. Yeah. But they will all have the same voting rights, won't they? Presumably, yeah.
No, you're planning. It's planning.
So
I'm here to represent two people that have an interest in this.
okay, so you'll be talking, discussing, but not voting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay. Okay. And no declarations of interest, I assume, amongst the group of us. Okay, to approve the minutes of the last meeting held on the 16th of September 2014. This was held in the Methodist Church, where we discussed cutting a couple of branches off the birch tree, and since then the birch tree branches have been cut off. So if you're all happy that those minutes were correct, I can propose that we sign them.
I'll second that.
The rest of you happy? I'll just remind you who was here.
Not you.
Myself and Willie Wilson and Peter. So Willie's happy.
Sorry, who proposed? Peter.
No, Graham.
My
bad,
bad,
sorry.
Pete seconded.
Okay.
And three of us who were there.
Quite happy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Comments and observations from members of the public. Full house. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
I'm the owner of 12 Church Lane. So obviously this is the second application that we've put forward. The first one, we have actually taken comments that we had Andy Morfitt, who's the head of planning, over to the house, and he's had a look at everything. We've taken all of his suggestions on board with regards to what we've put there, and we've actually had a letter or an email from him confirming that this is exactly what he expressed that he wanted from the plot. So that we've actually put that in straight away. Based on the last Parish Council meeting, we've also taken into account the comments of the public, the people who spoke, and also your personal comments as well, that you made at the time with regards to the size of the building, or the dwelling, should I say. And what we've also done is taken it down a storey as well. So we're now single storey, and we've made it to a similar scale to the garage that is next door, which is John and Judy.
Yeah.
So I think that based on that, we've taken everything into consideration with regards to everyone that had an opinion to hopefully get this passed.
Okay. And just my personal comment here. The idea is that you cut the bottom of the garden off, isn't it?
Yes.
And therefore
yeah,
you, as number 12, wouldn't carry on driving around, would you?
Absolutely right. So we relinquish our rights to going round.
Yeah. Okay. Because that's just an issue that was raised about.
Yeah.
Fine. Does anybody else wish to make any comments?
I'll read these.
Well, so we'll go into free for now, and
So-
councillors can discuss.
no, because I've got letters to read on behalf of the people that can't be here.
Oh, okay.
This is from Mr. and Mrs. Holdaway from Scott's Close. I have requested that my objections to the planning application number reference a dwelling on land at 12 Church Lane, Hilton, are read out on my behalf. I am unable to attend this meeting as I am caring for my wife who is recovering from an operation. The submitted local plan indicates good access to the proposed property. It does not take into account the established grassed area with trees and shrubs which we understand is common land. Access to the 2 proposed parking spaces would be restricted. Reversing out and turning would be difficult and would mean reversing into the pedestrian alleyway area. The proposed dwelling is on backland development, which we understand is against current district council policy. We do not consider this dwelling would enhance this area, and we believe there are no other dwellings of this type in the back garden development in Hilton Village. This dwelling is proposed to be in a conservation area, which we understand to mean a respect for the established area and the peace of mind of the residents. The access gravel driveway is not owned by the applicant and is owned by HDC, who would be required to grant permission. Cambridge Highways are responsible for Church Lane, but the gravel driveway crosses the green, that is, common land. Will the Parish Council grant permission of access to this proposed dwelling? Item 2.2 and 2.5. These photographs are misleading. Church Lane can be very congested, especially at weekends, with funerals, weddings and christenings being held in St Mary's Church. The alleyway and gravel driveway are used by many villagers, including school children. This dwelling would mean increased traffic movement involving cars, delivery vans, etc. We would not object to an extension to the current property, identical to the one built by the neighbour. The second one is a letter to Mr Moffat from Mr and Mrs Mulcahy, also of Scots Close. We wish to formally object to the planning application. This is backland development contrary to the District Council policy. The proposed dwelling enters onto a small area of common land with mature trees and shrubs behind our back garden. There is no space within the new property for cars to turn around, which will cause safety issues for pedestrians. The lane and surrounding area gets very muddy when wet and has potholes. The property is in the conservation area and access to it is over HDC land. The alleyway and lane leading from Church Lane to Scots Close is a very heavily used walkway by both old and young people, school children on their way to and from catching the school bus in Scots Crescent, mothers, toddlers and dog walkers who find it a safe way of walking. It is also used by visitors to the church. To give access to another dwelling on this lane with at least 2 more cars, visitors' cars and delivery vans in this small space is unsafe. There is no space for visitors' cars outside the proposed house, and the nearest parking will be in Church Lane, which is already heavily congested. There is little turning around space for vehicles in the area, and this will cause danger for many school children and pedestrians who use the lane at different times. There is no pavement along the lane for people to walk safely. This is a very small area with the grass, shrubs and trees that make it very difficult for vehicles to move around. The land behind these houses was not intended for vehicles. Please acknowledge receipt of this letter. That again is signed by both Mr and Mrs Mulcahy.
Am I allowed to comment at this point? Or not?
No, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Quick point of order, Mr Chair. I think we're still in the open
Yes,
session.
We are, yes, still in the open session.
Totally.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to check because I thought that
Yeah,
drawing
okay.
was still in the
Drawing-
open
drawing-
session.
drawing-
She's reparation.
Yes.
So
Well,
I thought it was still in the open session.
I'm afraid you can't because it's a case of speaking once. Yeah. But Julia.
Well, it's just the fact of the access to the back,
Yes.
that the upkeep of that road has been, as far as I know, written into a mortgage that each house that uses that road is responsible for actually upkeep of it.
We are the only ones that have ever paid anything towards that.
Mhm.
Nobody else has. As far as I know,
Mhm.
when that needs doing, we physically pay for the stuff to be put down and we physically do it ourselves. As to the upkeep of that area, we also do that. John and I cut all that area.
And we actually planted the
And we
trees.
do, and we keep that piece of ground and always have done. That is not If that's common ground, then it will be a wilderness, and that's why it isn't, because we've personally kept it well.
For the past 30 years, we've been
Mr.
cutting it.
Tyler, who lived next door, he went in and out of that property probably almost daily from the back, and nobody ever complained. So I can't see that saying reversing out is an issue, because that's been going on. And the fact that Steve has moved in recently is just, and it has always parked at the front, they could park around the back. And in fact, I think that's what you should start doing. You should start driving around there and encouraging everybody else to do so.
Okay.
And as I say, delivery vans go down there from Tesco's.
Yeah, and they go down,
To
and
the stewards.
the studio there is constantly used by members of the public and delivery vehicles and people that come to Mr. Stewart to help him, because he's now needs carers, and they park in the lane, park all over the place. Sometimes we can't even get round them. And as for people using the church, they frequently park in front of that, so we can't get to our property.
Okay.
So maybe we need some signs up.
Okay. Right. If we go into closed meeting now, and the rest of us can, so it's the four of us, chat amongst us. I will just remind us what we said at the last planning meeting. There were a couple of comments, one from Mr. Cox and one from Mr. Holloway. One was concerning the privacy, and then Mr. Cox pointed out the height and the size of the property. At that time, we opted for, we couldn't recommend for approval or refusal, so we went for the no observation. GB advised that the planning committee had spoken with immediate neighbours. He advised that I hadn't visited the people behind Scott's Coast, and I forgot to do that, but they came to the meeting. Advised that the site is in a conservation area, and therefore the PEC should not approve anything that does not enhance the area, as it would set a precedence. And that's about it, really. I will just comment that that since that application, the property has reduced in size. The outline that you had previously seen is considerably smaller, and it is a single story. It is very much of a garage design now. It's, according to the plan, it is bigger than the one next door at number 11, but it is still of a garage plan. It's very much like the garages. The point I asked of Mr. Cox is that there will be no extra, potential for cars around the back, depending on who lives there and whatever is currently going on. There is, it's still only access to one property. At the moment, they have access to back where they could park in their own garage. This would be sold off, and therefore it would be the same, effectively, as access to a property. And as pointed out, there are 3 properties already down that road, and this would make a 3rd dwelling. And it's obvious that HDC have been in communication with number 12. So casting your mind back, are you happy with?
Just to clarify one thing, the lane is not owned by the Parish Council. It's not common land.
No.
It's a thin strip which gets you from the lane onto the road.
Yeah.
So the ownership of that lane, I don't think it's been properly established.
No, and that's the point, that the local people have been upkeeping it. So yeah, it's one of those sort of things, isn't it? It's adopted and the locals look after it.
Presumably it's Huntingdon District Council.
We believe that they own part of it,
Yeah.
but it's obvious it's not maintained by them.
No,
But it doesn't appear on their maps.
doesn't it?
No. But ownership is, well, obviously HCC are aware of this property. I think some of the comments or the concerns that the neighbours had previously have been addressed by its reduction in size. It's just, I think, a question of whether you think this enhances the area. Last time I say we went for no observations.
Right,
So on Huntingdon District Council website, there's a, if you look at the previous application, there is, at the time when it's withdrawn, there was a long stream of email correspondence between the proposer and Mr Moffat and also the planning officer responsible, and the indications are by Mr Moffat that certainly that's what he was aiming for.
Yep.
The original application is going to be declined, I believe, on the basis of size and not enhancing the area around the back. I just want to say, I hope that Mr and Mrs Holdaway have written to Huntingdon District Council with their fears and complaints, because the Parish Council doesn't make a decision on the planning.
No, it's just a consulting body.
And likewise with the email that Joe had, which is from the second people that mentioned, and I can't remember.
Mr and Mrs McCarthy,
I was very pleased.
that was addressed to Mr Moffat.
Yes, and I was very pleased to see that had gone, because again, the Parish Council doesn't refuse or grant planning applications, so I was pleased that that one had gone. But I would recommend to Mr and Mrs Holdaway that they write to HDC on that as well. There is that question of access over what effectively is that part of the green.
My hunch is that it's never been properly formalised, but with restricted usage, it's obviously been established for a long time.
But this is a new property, proposed new property.
But the thing is, I don't think that would be part of this issue. I don't think we're only proving or refusing the property itself. The access would be a separate issue.
It's a different issue.
Yes, yes. If it was felt, if the property had or was given permission by HTC, then we would look into, we'd say thanks very much, and we believe that access is over the green, this is a change of use, and we would discuss if that's what we thought. But I think that's going to be one for surveyors and things, because at the moment it does have access, or hereditary access to the back of the property. So it would be interesting to see whether that will be the case, but I don't think that's an issue for tonight. If the property isn't approved, then you're discussing something that doesn't need to be discussed. I think it's a sort of step-by-step approach. But it would come into being if the property is approved. So I say really we are.
Worth the proposer being aware of that.
Oh yes, indeed. I know that's something that has been discussed before, but yes. Yeah.
I just want a little concerned about the amount of vehicles that park in Church Lane generally. This is, although there's no extra usage in the lane, it is an extra 2 cars or 2 cars into the road. Add that to the property that's this is all just becoming quite high density more suitable parking.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And there's the next.
Sorry, I just stop you because you're not part of the planning committee.
I thought I could contribute.
No, sorry.
We just kept
Thought it was wrong. But I would just point out that doesn't seem to affect HTC's thoughts, because the property in the corner of the green there has went to appeal and has appeals been upheld. So the property in the corner of the green has got planning permission. So although parking is an issue for residents down there,
It's the one on the corner of the grass area. HTC turned it down because it wanted to.
it went to appeal, and that just happened the last week.
It's number 8. It's number 8. 8, 5, 10, 7. Number 7.
So the corner. So the point I'm making is that although parking is difficult, it wouldn't be an issue upon which you could object or turn down. You can comment on it, but it wouldn't be an issue, I'm afraid. I don't think. I think because last time we had no objection, one objection, we had no observation. I'm tending to move to that again. This is certainly smaller than the previous one. Nothing's nothing's got worse as far as I can see. And last time we had no observation. So unless anyone feels that new light or new evidence has come to light, I would propose that we go for the no observation, neither for nor against. Is anyone prepared to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Want to take a vote on that, the rest of us? You all happy with that? No observations?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the full. Okay. And I would just, so that would be, so that's closure of the meeting, but I would just say if anybody is unhappy or has any comments or has thought of something while we've been chatting, the closure date for HTC's response is the 25th of December, so by all means get your comments into HTC by 25th. And there are plans on here. There will be time while we pack up the tables, so if you want to look at the drawings and the comments, then please do.
You were saying about this is going to be referred to the easements work group.
Is it?
To look into? I don't know, but it's...
Well, if you've got, yeah. Well, is it worth, do you want to spend time on that until it gets approval? Perhaps you could consider
probably
it.
not. It's a fair
Well,
amount of work.
the point is,
Anyway,
yes, the point is we are aware that it crosses Parish Council land, and I think until it is approved or refused, then I wouldn't get too concerned about it. But as long as we're aware of it, so we'll put that in there. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.